Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Britton's Hangout Hour, episode 7. A bit more of an unconventional schedule this week. It's the first time I've had you on my show, actually. I've been on this guy's show a couple times. Good friend of mine, writer, podcaster, illustrator. Is that right?
That's among other things, yes.
Josh Pantalleresco, how you doing, man?
Taking myself as seriously as I always do on the air. Yes. As you know, I'm a very serious man, or something.
Oh, yes.
Effect, anyway.
Oh, yes. Very, very my good sir. You run a podcast called Just Joshin'.
Correct.
I've been on there a few times. This is the first time I've had you on my
That's right.
on my show, so I guess
I'm the pretty one today. You get to leave me.
it's like what the great George Lucas said. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Oh boy, we're gonna go with George Lucas today. Okay.
Anyways, yeah. So you run a podcast. You wrote a epic poem about Alice in Wonderland and Greek mythology, and I thought, I'm like, epic poetry. Who does that anymore? Is that even a thing now? I guess we can talk about that as we go on this episode. My voice is cracking.
Go right ahead. Just how you lead it. Tell me what you want to know, and I'll give you an answer to that question.
An epic poem, out of all things. Explain yourself.
So, Alice isn't my first epic poetry series. My first epic poetry series is actually called The Watcher. And, so, this was about, this is 2014. So, 2014, I began back into the writing thing. I had gone through a very interesting time in my life. Interesting time in my life. Through 2007 to 2009. And I was finally ready to just get back into it. I had basically recovered from that experience, and I had recovered, and I was like, okay, I want to get back into this. I want to get serious back into this. So what do I do? And so initially, when I published my first self-published thing as a book, I did a long time ago called I Am, a bunch of short little poems. Poetry is like I thought it was a low investment. You just put your little bit in and out. But anyway, I wanted to do something a little longer, so I wrote a poem called The Watcher. It's about a slave boy that lives in his job is to look out to towers, measure weather in this world with dragon masters, and his family is in this compound. He kind of wondered what was out there. And I wrote this poem, and I was like, this is pretty cool. What happens next? So I wrote the second chapter, in which he kills his dragon master and goes into the wilderness. And I'm like, okay, I can't end this here. So I write chapter 3. And chapter 3 is his first night alone in the woods and dealing with the fact he just murdered somebody. Chapter 4 is continued story, and then chapter 4 went to chapter 5. Chapter 5 went to chapter 6, and I realized that this was my poetry collection. This story accidentally came to my head. I just kept writing, and then I went to a comic shop. And this is one of those really serendipitous moments. Is somebody I used to work at Kinko's with. She had done some comic book illustrations of all things, and I asked her if she'd be willing to do some illustrations for the book. She said yes, and she did, and she did a really cool kick-ass cover. And my plan, Britton, was simple. I was going to write this epic poem because I read stuff like Calvin Millar and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. It's like, okay, cool. I did something just like that. And I was going to, self-publish it and print copies of the book for, shows. That was all my plan. And published the initial draft as a Smashwords. So I put it out on Smashwords. And within a couple of days, I got some email from someone I interviewed a long time ago. She goes to me, this is really cool. What are you going to do with it? And the answer is what I just told you. She goes, oh, okay, well, I just made a deal with Ingram Spark. I'm starting a publishing house. I'll publish it for you. And that, my friends, is how you accidentally write and get published traditionally without ever intending to. And that's what happened there. And I did a trilogy for that company, and I was really proud of it. And then I I'm asked to do another kind of epic poetry, a little shorter one. It would become Mount Zero. I was requested to do a Lewis Carroll poem, something about Lewis Carroll for an anthology. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll do it. She's a friend of mine. The editor's a friend of mine, and I went and did it. And then I went and go, what the fuck am I going to say about Lewis Carroll that hasn't been said before? So that night, I go to a bar, and I meet a girl with a Gorgon tattoo on her arm. Right? It kind of reminded me, I thought about Medusa. I was like, okay. I asked this girl that was really cute if she wanted to do fire drink, and I find out she plays for the other team. And that was fine. And that was fine because we're still friends to this day. Actually, we still are friends. And I asked her if I could, Medusa after her in the story, and she's like, yeah, sure. And next thing I know, I had this like eureka moment. What if Alice and Pandora, Alice and Pandora are the same story? So what if Alice was Pandora and she opened Pandora's box? It'd be the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a Cheshire Cat in the head. It's like, oh, wow. And so I didn't get published in an anthology, and this one I did publish on my own. And it got nominated for the Elgin Award last year for poetry. So, I don't know.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So I'm doing something right, I guess. I don't know. So, I accidentally got traditionally published for my first poetry series, and I got an award for my second one. I can't really complain, I don't think, or nominated for an award, I should say, for the second one. I can't really complain about this epic poetry pass. I really can't.
Yeah, when you think of epic poetry, you think of something like Paradise Lost or The Odyssey or something like that. Epic of Gilgamesh, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. It definitely follows that. It definitely follows that model.
I just thought that it just sounds kind of. I've written poetry too. It's just a lot of it's kind of free form, I guess. Plus, poetry isn't really my forte anyway, so it's easy to write though once you get a hang of it. It's just the honest truth is it wasn't something I planned, dude. I just it happened and good things came from it. Mm-hmm. Ugh. Also wrote a story about Zelda, if I remember. You were inspired by Zelda?
Yeah, I wrote a short story I wrote a short story. I still got it. It's basically the story I wrote there was I wrote a story about a fairy trapped in a jar with an evil spirit, and it's the story of how she tries to escape the jar. I won't spoil it too much, but there's definitely a Legend of Zelda homage to it, dude, because why does Link collect those gets those jars and collects those damn berries and these evil spirits sometimes? Why does he do that? I got a really fun story why he did it. Yeah. So.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I recently finished Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics.
Great book.
It is a great book. And
it's a great book.
Oh, you said good book?
I said it was great. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, I thought you said great.
I got taught by Scott McCloud, actually.
I also enjoy The Sculptor from him, too. That book is really good.
I haven't read that one. I have Zot somewhere over the rainbow. I have Zot. It's probably my storage. I went back into my storage locker the other day and finally got my Aurora Award out for the first time in 3 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
My buddy Chris is a big Zot fan. He's like, bro, you gotta read Zot. And he harasses me to read it.
It's a cool idea. It's a really cool idea. I think it's really cool. I met Scott, about 8 years ago now.
Oh, really? You met Scott McCloud? That must be cool.
He taught me. I went to a class taught by Scott McCloud.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, really good dude.
Really is he as funny and engaging as he is in Understanding Comics?
He's engaging, understanding. He's a good teacher. He loves what he does. The one thing I will say about him is he absolutely loves what he does. He actually encouraged me to draw when I couldn't draw, way back in the day. Because I took the course. I was the only writer that took the course. I didn't take it because I was good. I took it because I wanted to understand how to do comics better. When you're writing comics, right, you want to, again, you don't necessarily want to put, you don't necessarily completely in the artist's shoes, but you need to understand what the artist is doing and looking for and have a bit of relationship so you can understand why they're doing what they're doing, right? It's part of the storytelling process. So I figured I'd learn as much as I can about it. I was easily the worst artist in that class. It wasn't even close. But they understood. It's like, wow, you're a writer just trying to get better at understanding of, getting out of your comfort zone and learning shit. That's what I did.
I've also heard he's a good friend of Kurt Busiek.
I don't know what their relationship's like, but Scott he's a good dude, man. He was really, really good. He would go on the road and teach the course, and the opportunity came, and I took it.
Yeah, I want to read Headlopper soon, but I haven't had, like, the itch to read a lot of comics recently.
That's fair. I'm finally catching up on some of my comics. Actually, it's been a long time. I finished the Green Lantern, the most recent Green Lantern run finally, and I also finished Cowboy Bebop, and I finally started to read the new Saga arc. So. Oh
man, Cowboy Bebop, that's my favorite anime of all time.
Yeah, they had a comic force miniseries.
Oh, they had a comic book? I did not know that.
Yeah. So I got it because I am a Cowboy Bebop fan. So it's fun.
I love the anime. I didn't see the live action show.
I haven't seen the live action show yet either. It's not on my list of things to watch. But I do. I actually, so again, going to my storage locker, all the stuff I haven't seen in years is there. I found like I take one box with me. Took one box with me on top of my Aurora, but next time I go, I might grab the Cowboy. I found the Cowboy Bebop box where I have my Cowboy Bebop DVDs and stuff like that. Found it, so might pick it up next time. Maybe not. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to bring with me next time.
You know, it's a thing with Cowboy Bebop. It's like, here's all the stuff that I like. You know, like noir. I like science fiction. I like philosophy. I like jazz. I also like westerns. It's like a show that was made just for me, you know? It's one of those, at least for me anyway. I don't know about it in your experience.
It's Guardians of the Galaxy before there was Guardians of the Galaxy. It's the same kind of vein.
Existential angst, you know? Like, I love that shit. When it's done well. I don't like whinging. But I do like angst when it's done well, you know?
Well, it's the old school, like Pirates in Space. That's what it is. It's fun. It's a fun show, well thought out. It's an incredibly well thought out show, and the violence you see in animation, a lot of that comes from that show, actually. So.
That's why I'm hesitant to watch Firefly. I'm afraid that my love for Cowboy Bebop is just going to ruin enjoying Firefly.
Firefly's okay. It's not great.
It's not great.
Overrated.
You might offend some Whedon fans.
I think it's a little overrated. I'm sure there's some Firefly fans that like hate me. I think it's a cool concept. I would have loved to see where it would have gone if it had another season or two. But as is, it's got a lot of potential. And you definitely, when you watch it, you see the potential in the characters, and it's interesting. But again, for me, my favorite shows are from prior to that are Deep Space Nine, Babylon 5. They're I think the best sci-fi shows from that era. It's just my opinion.
I enjoy Deep Space Nine.
Yep.
Star Trek's one of those things that just got better as it went along, and then there's some people who are kind of mad at it now. But I don't really care about that.
I did a Star Trek episode on the podcast with the guy who wrote Tower Trek. The thing is, Star Trek's gotten so big as a franchise that it no longer serves the masters it did when it started. It just doesn't. That doesn't mean it's not my Star Trek anymore. But I don't need it to be my Star Trek anymore either. There's still plenty of my Star Trek out there. Then that's really all you can hope for.
Yeah, I was like a hardcore Trekkie in middle school, and then I kind of it was kind of same thing with Doctor Who. I really got into that when I was in middle school, and then I kind of dropped off of it.
Never did Doctor Who. Never did it.
It's very good.
I heard.
It's one of those like. Oh, sorry.
Go.
I was just gonna say it's kind of like the X-Files, where I find that the one-offs tend to be a lot stronger than the main story.
Well, I think Doctor Who is one of the most brilliant concepts in television. Actually, that is a brilliant idea. They created a character that changes every so often. So that means for someone like me, who has no idea where to begin, I can always wait for a new Doctor and start there. I think that's brilliant. I think that's absolutely brilliant. I think it's one of the smartest things I've ever seen on television.
Yeah, it's neat. Yeah. I mean, if you do want to, you could just start with the, when it first came back, and Christopher Eccleston. I think you could start there and be fine.
Oh yeah, well, that's the thing. I can start at any Doctor and be fine. Like, you know what I mean? That's the brilliance of that show, is that every Doctor has their own story, right? So, I'll pick it up eventually. I'm straight now. I'm watching The Boys season 2. That's where I'm at.
Oh, I just finished season 3 last night.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm slowly catching up. I waited until season 3 kind of ran its course before I really did this, but I watched all of season 1. I'm enjoying the differences in the show compared to what's in reality. I think actually, after seeing it enough, I have to say I think overall the show's better. Overall. I'm leaning on that because I've just mentioned this. Garth Ennis is known for, I don't want to say he hates superheroes, but he doesn't care for them. And you can see that he doesn't care for them and he doesn't understand superheroes. And I wouldn't go that. I disagree with the last statement. He understands them just fine. He's just bored with them. That's the thing with him. He's bored because there are really only one or two kinds of stories you can tell with them, and that's the thing about superhero genres. Like there's some really inventive takes on superheroes. I just finished Marissa Mayer's Renegades. Really good book. It's really fun inversion of the whole superhero supervillain. It's a fun one. It's not that
it feels weird when I read about superheroes in novels. It's like a part of its identity just gets stripped out for me.
In this particular case, I'm saying this straight up. Marissa Mayer is awesome. You would enjoy. I think you'd enjoy it. It's an interesting idea. I think so. The two novelizations of superheroes I really thoroughly enjoyed are Brandon Sanderson's take on it, which is really fun. Which is the Steelheart trilogy there.
Brando Sando, the dude's a fucking machine.
No, but it's fun. Like the beautiful thing about Sanderson is he has his big novels, but he's also got smaller ones. And this is a fun little trilogy. It's a really good little trilogy about superheroes. And I dig that about it. I dig that about Sanderson is sometimes he'll just do like a fun, like he doesn't always just do these big over the top epics. He just sometimes does a really straightforward story, and on his superhero trilogy is a straightforward yarn. Mayer's is better than his, because it does a really interesting idea. It deals with the idea of people not being who they say they are in a very clever way. And a fun little romantic story on top of that, which is kind of fun. And it inverts the whole idea of villains and heroes in some really interesting ways. And I really dig the concept. I really dig the concept of where she's going with it. And I can't read the rest of the trilogy, so I think it can be done. It can be done well, but there's only so many stories. Like when you do superheroes, and especially in comics, there's hundreds, thousands of superhero stories, all kinds. And I think it's initially funny is that initially when Ennis wanted to do the story, he wanted it to be Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all those characters. I thought that was ballsy.
Oh,
that
Lord.
was freaking ball. You know what? He had a cool. No, it would have been neat, I think, to see that. But Straight up.
I think The Boys as a comic, I do enjoy The Boys comic. It's not as well done as Preacher is, which is funny because, according to Ennis himself, it's a lot. He had it more structured, The Boys, than Preacher. But I actually think Preacher is better or I prefer Preacher, I should say.
Preacher is Ennis being raw, and another thing he's really passionate about. I think Ennis's best stuff is his war stories.
Oh yeah, his war stuff's really good. Have you read Sarah?
I read Sarah. I read the last thing I read from him was a book called Johnny Red, old school. That was really good. It actually inspired some of the stuff I'm currently working on now. I found out about Russian military units that I think are really, really, really neat and cool and historically awesome. And that was from Ennis's run. Johnny Red. I think he does a really good job with that kind of stuff. But he's also done he's done a couple Killer Thor stories. The dude can write a superheroes book if he wanted to. He just doesn't he doesn't. I don't necessarily think he hates them. I like his commentary on superheroes. If you want like the PG-13 version of that, go read his Hitman run. His Hitman run's really fun. Right, his Hitman run's actually really, really fun. Hitman is a kind of a superhero, but he uses superheroes in a way that's a lot more. It's surprisingly human of all things, because Hitman's not a character that Batman loves, but he had an interesting relationship with Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern, and Hitman loves Superman. Loved Superman.
I know Ennis respects, for some reason, he respects Superman. Or he explained it, he's like, it's nice. He's just nice. I guess Ennis is like, I kind of respect that at the end of the day. I can't shit on that.
Well, Superman is, like, as a concept, is actually fucking cool. It's actually, like, it's a kid's imagination, like, Brad Meltzer writes about it in one of his legal thrillers about Superman. I think it's Book of Fate. If I go by, I think that's the novel. And he talks about the whole idea of it. The idea of Superman by Joel. He talks about Joel Schuster's why they made him, and it makes sense. It's about a guy that basically that's bulletproof. Well, at the end of the day, it's basically how would a kid imagine his dad being the most awesome thing in the world? That's a cool idea. I don't care what anybody says. That's a cool idea. Now, you might be like, he's got too many powers, he's fucking boring now. But the idea of a kid imagining his dad to be the most awesome person in the world is not... I mean, I did that when I was a kid. I think it's one of the most human concepts we've ever had. And when Superman is done well, he's actually really good. He's just hard to do well consistently for a sustainable period of time.
But, going back to The Boys, I sometimes like to jokingly pitch it to people as a meaner version of Watchmen. Which I get is probably going to trigger some people, and I know that's kind of an oversimplified way to describe it. But similarly to Watchmen, Ennis kind of goes, okay, what would these, superpowered beings be like in the real world?
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of disagree with his view, personally. But I can understand where he's coming from, and I think his satire of, like, celebrity culture is really good in that. And I also love Billy Butcher. I think it's one of the most colorful characters he's made.
I think Butcher is one of the most he's an interesting monster.
Oh, yeah.
I describe it. He's an interesting monster. In that he's still very human.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the way Carl Urban plays Butcher, he does a lot of things I really like, but one of the things I kind of dislike is how much he bullshits his own team. It's an interesting. It's in television show. Butcher's a little bit less than an honest man. A man is driven by revenge. He'll do a lot of different things for sure, and there's definitely a very human hurt in Butcher, and you can see it very much very, very much. In like I'm in season 2. I'm just after the part where the terror, like Kimiko meets her brother, which I think was really, really, really interesting. That they did then. I wasn't sure they were going to do it then, but it was really neat. It was neat. It was a neat take on Kimiko, and she being, and I like, and actually, so I love how Kimiko is done in the television show versus the comic. I think she's much more interesting in the television show.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best thing. But I think Butcher, the thing I really loved about Butcher in the comic was there was a very, I mean, it kind of was a facade, but it kind of wasn't. The guy once upon a time was a regular bloke.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing about him that made him. He was a dude that just got irredeemably hurt by one of the biggest monsters of all time.
Well, I feel that in the comic, there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, it's great, it's really good." Then the ending kind of just comes out of nowhere. I disagree. I think it's clear from the very beginning that Butcher isn't a good guy, and we shouldn't trust him. But damn it, he's fun to watch. Sure, he's fun to read about in the comics anyway.
He wasn't such an open liar though in the comic. Like he was. He never pretended he wasn't something else. Never pretended he wasn't who he was. And again, secretly speaking, I hope that the final season of The Boys, Butcher should be the final villain.
I agree. Even though it hurts for me to say, I feel that's the only way it could end.
Well, it has to end that way. It has. The other thing that's really interesting about The Boys, the comic, is, and now we're gonna spoil it too much in case they do go in this direction, at least a little bit. It has a happy ending.
Relatively.
No, actually, it does.
I think Garth Ennis does have a heart underneath how mean he can be, especially with Preacher. I love the ending of Preacher. Such a heartfelt. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. Continue what you were saying about The Boys.
Yeah, no, it's a happy ending for all things considered. Like he doesn't always do happy endings. See Preacher, see a few other ones, but he gets a happy ending in the comic. It's really, really cool. The only thing I think that was better in the comic than the show, I love the hijacking plane in the comic. I think that was one of the few things.
When it's 9/11. Oh my god.
No, also, I mean, it was real physics. Like, it was super real. It was super real physics. And I love the fact that all the 7 tried to be heroes in the comics and failed instead of just Homelander and Maeve, right? Mm-hmm. Homelander is like they make Homelander far more a monster in the show, but in the comic, they just showed they really had no business being up there.
He's more like a stunted child.
Well, that's what he is.
Who in the comics anyway.
Even in the book, they're true to that. I mean, he is an unbalanced character that kind of pushes against his boundaries, mm-hmm. right? In the first season, he's got a bit of that I'm the fucking man, but only if mommy lets me. Like, he's got a very weird Oedipus little complex there, mm-hmm. right? In the first season, and he shirks it off in a very way at the end of the season. In the second season, he's a lot more. He's still not fully confident. The Mr. Edgar intimidation scene is one of my all-time favorites. Actually,
he's basically Mr. Edgar's basically Stillwell from the comics, and that's what you need to, and he has to be especially against that guy. The one thing about that guy is he's not afraid of Homelander at all, right? And I think it's because he sees right through him.
I'm sure he does.
Also, but, who better to get than Giancarlo Esposito, man? He's fucking amazing.
Yeah. No, it's also a role with some serious meat to it too, because that guy's a monster. I love how he told Homelander about Stormfront without actually telling him about Stormfront. That that was some brilliant shit there. I thought like that's some incredibly brilliant shit there. Yeah, it makes you realize that as a viewer, you should pay a lot of attention to what Edgar's saying, because Edgar will tell you exactly the way it is in his own damn way, because he doesn't give a shit, right? He doesn't care. I love like his commentary, and also like again, if you look up Disney and you look up something like, I can't remember the other guy he mentioned there, right? He became this Wonder Bread American, and it's blah 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 blah. Look those guys up. Those names were chosen deliberately. So,
yeah.
It's very, very smart. You know, I can't argue with the choices that were made there. You know, so.
I find the show is, I don't know if I want to say better, but it's not quite as extreme as the comics, which is kind of saying a bit, because it does go into some really wacky places, like,
it goes into some dark shit for sure.
The show's kind of like a train wreck that you can't look away from, and the comics more like a wacky fun ride.
I wouldn't call the show a train wreck. The show's very smart too. It's just
I don't mean that in a bad way.
I don't think it's a train wreck though. I think what it is.
I don't say that in a bad way. A train wreck. I say it in a good way.
No, I say it, but I don't know if that's apt. I think for me, the thing about the show, the thing that makes the show really interesting is, Ennis touches on it in the comic book. It goes that one of the subtle themes of the show too is goes no matter how well trained you are as a military man, you're going against, no matter who they are, they're out of your weight class. They're just in general out of your weight class. Like I mean, season 1 with Translucent I thought was a really, really good way of showing that. They had to literally think about how to kill him. How did we kill this motherfucker? Right? And what the Frenchman came up with was a brilliant solution to that problem. Right? It was. I mean, but they had to think about it. Right?
Yeah.
They had to think about it. They had to. Again, look at all the prep they had to do to evade Homelander. All the things they did to evade him. Right? And even then, he still nearly caught them. Like he still nearly did. He just squeaked by.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I like that Homelander's sharper in the series than he is in the comics, because, like I said, he's kind of just like a big kid in the comics.
So is.
Not to say he isn't in the show, but in the show, he has more of like a low cunning, I guess.
Well, no, his cunning is his ego. Like, it's all about him. That's
Yeah.
how he sees it in the show. It's all about him. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't care who he hurts, how he hurts. He tries to make everybody into carbon copies of just like him. Like, last time I watched him, he had tried to get Starlight to kill Huey. I'm like, Starlight's like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, you need an incentive. Well, if you don't kill him, I'll kill you and him. It's like, and it was a win. He did it for no other reason than a win.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's it. There was nothing else to it. And then watching, I think the best character difference, honestly, is A-Train.
Yeah,
A-Train is,
I agree.
It's the best character difference.
In the comics, he's just an idiot.
In the comics, he okay, like I said, the comics are cruder, folks. Comics are cruder. Although I do love, again, just some of the lines from the comic that do come up in the show and the way they do come up. It's like, okay, but again, the people in charge of the boys do respect the comic book material.
Mm-hmm.
They just what they do is like, okay, we'll mine what we think is the really, really good shit, and we'll make it a little bit more contemporary for a modern audience to understand. Because again, let's be blunt, folks, boys and girls. The comic is fucked up.
Yes,
and
it is.
The show is fucked up, but they're fucked up in different ways, like very, very different ways, and it's more palatable as a show.
Like, have you read Cross, Josh?
I haven't read Crossed.
I was about to say, Garth Ennis is twisted. A little bit.
No, he is. He is. And,
or even Preacher. He's twisted. He's a little twisted.
I've met Garth, actually.
Oh, you've met him?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, that must have been fun. I've seen interviews. He's just such the opposite of what you'd expect from a guy who wrote Preacher, you know?
He's super chill.
Yeah, he's just like a regular dude, you know?
Yeah, super chill. He was at the Avatar, so he had released a movie. I was in Phoenix, Arizona, and
He has resting bored face, though.
No. The thing is, he's very much. The thing about him is, this is the thing about him. This is the impression I got of Garth Ennis when I met him. The dude's ultimately, he's as twisted as he can be. He's a romantic at heart. That's what he is.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get that about him, he's cool. Like, he's a really cool dude. And honestly, I mean, if I ever get the opportunity to interview him, he'd be somebody I want to interview. Just to go have a pint at a bar and just chill.
Yeah, I'd love to interview him too. Yeah, he's been interviewed a lot recently on like YouTube. Like Comic Pop interviewed him, and Near Mint Collection interviewed him recently.
Yeah, no, I'd be talking about what he's doing now, because he doesn't do as much comic book work now. He's probably doing more movie stuff, so I'd be kind of interested to see where his career is taking him.
Oh, really? I thought he was still like doing war comics, because that's like his bread and butter.
He probably still is. I don't know, like the post-pandemic, I don't know where all the comic book creators and what they're doing completely anymore, because I think everybody's kind of done. He's done some stuff for some some companies. He's doing something for one of the ones that just launched this year, Humanoid Comics or whatever the hell it's called. Can't remember. Anyway.
He also got me super into war comics, so Garth Ennis, if ever the chance you watch this, thank you for that.
He wrote Sarah and TKO, which is cool.
I need to read his Battlefields. I want to read that.
Battlefield's good. Battlefield's is quite good.
One of my guys in my comic shop is like, bro, read Night Witches. It smacks. I'm like, alright, I'll check it out.
Yes. But, we're just looking at him. I don't know, like, the last thing I see he wrote was called String Bags. It was in 2020. So, he's definitely got enough, like, the Boys is certainly giving him enough money to not have to kill himself, right?
I also love his Punisher stuff. Born is probably my favorite Punisher story of all time. Yeah. That ending hit you like a fucking brick. One of just the darkest things he's done, I think. Probably one of his best endings, too.
Yeah. But, I look at it, there's some really good stuff. He doesn't have all his stuff. I love the, I actually have to go pick up, it looks like I do have to pick up a Garth Ennis book now. I wanted for my own personal research, and that's Night Witches. So.
A lot of people rag on Garth Ennis because of how extreme he is, especially with stuff like Crossed. And, it might just be me, because I tend to... I have a weird thing of seeing the potential in something that some might consider to be underwhelming, but I feel like there's a dark truth in Garth Ennis's work that I respect quite a bit.
It's him.
Like, his Punisher... I liked Crossed. I liked the first, series he did. The second one that, David Lapham did, I started reading that, and I just could not get through it.
Well, again, maybe just like I said, I'm okay with... And this is not my favorite comic book writer, but it's really good stuff. It's really good.
No.
I
wouldn't say he's one of my favorites either.
Oh, I disagree. Based on this conversation, you're a big fan. You're a pretty big fan of him.
Well, it's weird. I go back and forth. I really love a lot of his stuff, but then there's some of his stuff that is just awful.
Well, yeah.
Dix.
Because he...
Terrible. I hate that book.
Well, that's fair. I've never read. Like you said, you've read more him than I have. I like the... I'm gonna have to pick up Night Witches. That's definitely something on my list. That I have to pick up because I'm playing with the Night Witches in one of my novels right now. Just I did it in a very different way. I reimagined them in parallel universes, which is kind of fun. But it's the thing about him. He made an impact. He's definitely like now. I mean, with the boys being like the pop culture phenomenon it currently is, like he's got maybe 2 more seasons to go. I mean, he's got a great run on television. He's got a television. One of his works made it as a television show and a successful one. So that boy's kind of set for the foreseeable future. So he can do whatever he wants. I'll probably write more war comics because he likes writing about that stuff. That's what he cares about, right?
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say real quick, the chick who plays Maeve in The Boys, she looks a lot like the girl I'm talking to right now, which I always think is funny. I'm like, God, she looks familiar, and I thought about it, I'm like, holy shit, it looks like her. Oh.
Like I said, she looks like they're having fun with it. Like, you can tell, like, the cast is enjoying the show. It's good stuff. And they all have all the characters have really interesting arcs, which is kind of fun.
All right.
So, we'll see where it goes. Like, so I'm at season 2, so.
Where are you at? Because I was going to ask you something, but I didn't know how far you were in it.
Where am I at? I'm at season 2, episode 4.
Oh, okay. So you haven't gotten to the lamplighter stuff yet.
Nope. I'm sure. I'm sure we're gonna get there at some point because Mallory's been in season 2, and we'll see all of the developments going from there. No, I'm finally catching up with it now. Just because there's 3 seasons out. I have time to actually watch something. And so I'm watching that because it's like, well, it's a good one to start with. The next one I'm going to watch after that's The Wheel of Time because that's my first novel series. So I'm going to watch the show. If I like it, I like it. I don't. I'm going to give it a couple episodes to see if it hooks me. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, well, then I walk away from it and I find something else to watch.
I tend to be wary of long-running fantasy book series. I tend to try and stick with unless they keep my interest. Like something like Game of Thrones. Even then, I think that's kind of kind of bloated at times. But I digress. I don't want to get into that.
Well, it's up to you. I mean,
I'm in an abusive relationship with Game of Thrones. Put it that way.
Yeah, I walked away from it. I walked away from it. I met George R. R. Martin a couple times.
Oh, you met everybody. Oh my God.
No, it's just, dude, you do it. Although I met him way before I did my podcast or anything like that. So the first time I met George R. R. Martin was I was playing in 2005. I was playing a card game called Yu-Gi-Oh, and there was a tournament that weekend at a hotel in Calgary. And I went to show up at the hotel, and I found out that Spider Robinson, who also plays an important role later on in my life, couldn't make the show that I was going to be at. It was a convention. And George R. R. Martin was his replacement. I never deliberately lost a tournament so fast in my life. Like, I lost, and, like, I deliberately lost so I could go.
He kicked your ass at cards?
No, he didn't kick my ass at cards. He was there to read at that time. Beast for Crows hadn't come out, so he was actually reading from this is back way before television shows or all that shit. This was about a year or 2 before the release of Beast for Crows, and he came in to help because Spider Robinson was a friend of his, so he filled in for Spider, and he's a pretty cool villain. I got to meet him. I got to talk for the first time in a long time. I get to ask the dumb question everybody else does, what's your favorite character, right? He said straight up, Tyrion.
Oh, he's my favorite character, so, yeah. I've heard him say a few times that Tyrion's his favorite. Yeah,
Tyrion is his favorite one to write of the series. The thing is, after I read book 4, and it was such a long wait for book 5 for me, I still got, like, because he came back into Calgary officially for when he was supposed to, and Feast of Crows launched, and I went to his autograph, like the giant lamp. So I got books 1, 2, 3, and 4 autographed by Mark. So it's kind of cool. But that was the second time I met him. Just first time I met him was kind of like an accident. Like I showed up to a tournament to play a Yu-Gi-Oh card game and found out he was there. So I deliberately lost on the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament on purpose so I could go meet him. So
I remember. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt again. I'm really bad with that. I'm sorry.
So I mean, Mr. Britton is as from an interviewer to another, just like you know, just wait and listen, and you get more out. But anyway, go on.
I was gonna say, did you hear the Yu-Gi-Oh the guy died? And I was gonna share a story about Yu-Gi-Oh, but did you hear the Yu-Gi-Oh guy died?
Yeah, I did. Go share your story about Yu-Gi-Oh.
When I was a kid, around 6, I saw a video at my local 7-Eleven of this blonde, spiky-haired guy from Yu-Gi-Oh. I think he's like the main character or something. I don't know. I don't remember now.
Okay.
You can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're correct. The blonde, spiky-haired kid is the main character in the first Yu-Gi-Oh series.
So I thought, for whatever reason, even though I really fucking hated Pokemon, and I'm not even that big of an anime guy, still today, like, I'm still trying to, like, find my way in. But I thought that was the coolest shit ever. And I'm like, I convinced my grandma, I think it was either my grandmother or my mom, to get that, and I watched it, and he never showed up once in it. I remember, and I was so mad. I'm like, I'm never watching this again! I don't know. It was a weird.
What episode did you watch?
I don't know, but it didn't have him in it.
Yeah. What did you watch? That's an interesting one. So anyway, Japanese anime. You trying to find a good point of entry into it, like a good show. I mean, you like Bebop. I mean,
I love Bebop, and I enjoy Death Note. And a lot of people are like, you want to get into it? Those two shows are pretty good. I also watched a little bit of One Punch Man, which I thought was fun. I want to start Mushishi. That one, I saw that when I was younger, and I was really hooked into it. But I never knew the name, so I really wanted to check it out, and now I kind of want to get into that, like, again.
You want my opinion on where you should go?
Shoot.
Full Metal Alchemist.
I've heard that one is really good.
Yeah, that one's fantastic.
A lot of people have compared it to the X-Men, and I like the X-Men.
It's not the X-Men.
Though I wish that Marvel would just kind of split the X-Men into their own separate thing, because I think that would be a lot more interesting. But that's just my view on the whole thing.
Marvel has a very simple problem. They're whores.
They're what?
They're whores. They're whores. They don't know. Marvel has this history of they'll have a great idea. Like I think as a concept, X-Men is one of the coolest things ever. As a concept. Okay. But I'm looking to get into so when the Krakoa X-Men launched, when I was in Vancouver, when I was living in Vancouver,
mm-hmm.
I picked up Excalibur, I picked up Marauders. They're fun books.
Mm-hmm.
X-Men and Pirates, I'm in. Excalibur is always one of those fun X-Men books. But during the pandemic, I lost sight of those books because I of everything else that happened. Make a long story short, to make a really long story short, I don't like. The problem is there's currently like 10 zillion different X-Men books,
mm-hmm.
and so someone trying to get into the X-Men has no easy way to get into the X-Men because I have to read how many of these fucking books do I have to read to actually understand what the hell is going on? And these books all cost a degree of money. So let's say they're what, $3.99, $4.99 now. So
mm-hmm.
I can buy let's say realistically speaking, I got $20 to buy these books. $20. Okay, that means I gotta pick 4 of them. There's still 8 more. They're whores. They take a good idea and they spread it out as much as they can, get them trying to maximize. There's a certain degree of business sense to that, but at the same time, like now there's a huge barrier to entry. And it's like, I don't want to do it. Marvel, hell, to some degree, Marvel did it with their Marvel movies, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm only picking and choosing what franchises I'm going to watch at this point. Because, fuck it, I'm not dealing with this in my movie choices. It's bad when I do go to the movie. I want it to be fun, but I want just to really get one good. That's it. What? Want in and get my star. I want to leave. I'm never doing Avengers again for this reason. Just ever. Never doing it. So, it's like, we're done. Endgame, I'm done with Avengers. I ain't doing that ever again. Marvel's a horse.
I would say that if you do want to get in the X-Men, get the Claremont run. It's really good. It's like that really great X-Men stories.
But, I mean, classically, sure. But I mean today, like trying to get a book today.
Oh yeah, today it's yeah. No. They got Hickman on, and it's just I heard that's just like oh jeez.
Well, there's currently like I mean Batman's got the same problem with DC. What the fuck do I read to get into Batman? There's Batman, there's Detective, there's Batman this, Batman that, Batman this, Batman that, Harley Quinn, Catwoman, like it's like. DC Comics decided that Batman's going to take over everything, but eventually people get tired of the idea. Or they scale back the idea, and then what? Then what? Right? You have to have a little variety in your publishing. You have to. And right now, I mean, and I get it too, the pandemic changed some things, but this is why I'm reading most of my comics. I mean, my pocket universe of comics right now is Saga, Ninja Turtles, Harley Quinn, because again, two people creators I know personally are doing that book. I really like them both, and some there. Homesick Pilots, or yeah, I think that's what it's called for Image, and I'm going to be picking up Star Hinge from Liam Sharp, and I got Berserker from Matt Kent. That's it. These are my mainstream comics right now.
I've been reading a lot of indie comics. Well, I say indie. They're just like Image and Dark Horse and Boom. I also got League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which is one of the few Alan Moore things that I haven't read. And I also got Spider-Man Life Story because I really like the idea of it, and I'm a big Spider-Man guy, so.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
I love Spider-Man.
No, Spider-Man is one of the... I mean, it is the ultimate. In some ways, it's the tried and true. It's the tried and true for how do I put this? It's one of the most tried and true concepts in all of fiction is Spider-Man. It's Percival. It's the modern. It's as Percival as you can get. It's really good.
I also I guess it's a sort of I guess there's that inner sadism in me, but I love the trope when the hero gets, like, kicked down and he has to, like, bring himself back up. I'm a big fan of that trope.
Overcoming the odds. Yes, it makes sense. It makes sense. And it's not bad. I really enjoy... I get why Spider-Man's popular. I really, really do.
I really don't like people who kind of mock people for liking that idea. Because, like, oh, it's a power fantasy. Well, you know what? Maybe it is, but it's also a good message about perseverance. So fuck off.
Spider-Man's so I did my very first major published work was for Ben Bella Books back in 2008. I want to say 2008. I wrote an essay for a collection about Aragon called The Modern Day Percival. And what I was in my research of reading the story of Percival, I concluded that Percival was in practically every part of fiction, including Spider-Man. Spider-Man is as Percival is. That's why he's so appealing. Percival he's like us in the sense that he doesn't really know what's going on. He's figuring things out as he goes, and he's learning about the world and his family and ultimately about himself, and we all can relate to that. And that's why that type of story almost always works, and that's why you see it practically everywhere in fiction. It's not just in comics, it's everywhere. It's in movies, it's in novels. It's every single place you could possibly imagine. It works because, again, these are universal themes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, I mean, Spider-Man and Star Wars are essentially telling the same story. They're just doing it in different ways,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's the same story. Like,
I love
it's
Star
the
Wars
exact
too.
same. What?
I love Star Wars too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Star Wars, and Spider-Man. They're the story beats are the same. They're very much the same. It's just, again, how you tell us. It's not just what the kind of story you're telling. It's how you tell it. That's what makes a story interesting.
Yeah, I will say, I did finish Kenobi recently, because I've waited for a long time for Ewan McGregor to come back as Obi-Wan. So I'm like, I'm fucking watching that shit on day one. So that's what I did. I really enjoyed it. Wish it was a little bit longer. I think there were some concepts that could have been fleshed out a little more. Though my big thing with Star Wars right now, maybe try and do more stories away from the main Skywalker saga. But, I get that's where the money is. And they won't listen to me, so I've accepted it.
No, I look at it kind of, I kind of look at it like this with me. They're gonna go back to what works for their franchises. Like, there's gonna be another Star Wars trilogy, in another 10, 15 years. It won't be my Star Wars. Maybe I take my kids at that point. Maybe my kids will do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those. The idea is sound. It's something people want to get into, but I mean, the first trilogy is still the best one because
I agree.
It tells a full story. It tells a story. It tells a story from start to finish, and it's all you can really hope for with it. The second trilogy, you have by and large unlikable characters, although it does. Dude, I was rooting for the Emperor in Revenge of the Sith because he was the only one that had any emotion to him. The rest of them
but
are
the
very
Clone Wars, though.
The Clone Wars cartoon is good. The Clone Wars movie is terrible.
Oh, yeah, the movie's bad.
Yeah. And then I'm just talking about the movies here. And then the final trilogy, well, I do like the first movie. And I like the second movie overall. It's an inch away from being great, like literally an inch, and Rise of Skywalker, as a result of that difference of an inch, is a complete train wreck. And that's just my opinion. It's a complete train wreck.
Oh, don't get me started on Rise of Skywalker. Ugh.
Right? It's a train wreck. It's not terrible, and it's not as terrible as Clone Wars. But that first hour is a mess. It is a absolute mess, and you almost have to let the first hour go, just so if you want to say you enjoyed this movie, you have to completely turn your brain off for the first hour, completely. Right?
Oh no, it pissed me off from beginning to end.
Yep. It didn't piss me off from beginning to end, but the first hour is ugh. Bad. There's no way around it. It's just bad.
I agree. Pretty awful. Though the Marvel Star Wars comics are actually really good. Jason Aaron wrote the first run. I started reading that. It's actually really good, guys.
Yeah.
Also, Kieran Gillen. I tend to be pretty mixed on him, but his Darth Vader comics, very good. Or I enjoy them anyway.
Mm-hmm. His stuff's interesting. He's definitely got a music background, and you can tell how he writes. So
I'm on and off on him. I think he's strong conceptually, but he just can't pull him off. I can't. The pacing is usually where I tend to get really annoyed with Kieran Gillen.
That's fair. I can't argue with you. I think I've never fallen in love with a particular comic of his. I mean, that's the thing about him. But his ideas are pretty solid. So how do I put this? I don't know who's actually better, him or Millar. Mark Millar.
Oh God, I'd say Gillen's a lot better than Mark Millar. I don't think you can really get this. I don't think you can sink. I don't think you can sink lower than Mark Millar personally.
Mark Millar's got a bunch of his stuff made into movies.
He's a Garth Ennis who can't write though.
Oh no, no, he's not Garth Ennis, and he's not Ennis at all. He's, how do I put this? He is. I think a better comparison to Mark Millar would be Warren Ellis. Instead, I think he's closer to Ellis than he is to Ennis. Ennis is a lot more blunt. Than,
Have you read Wanted?
I haven't read Wanted, but I've read Jupiter's Legacy. That's the one concept of it is I don't mind. Some of the other stuff he does it's okay, but I mean he also did his Ultimate Run with Brian Hitch, which is is probably going to be his big contribution, and he also his Authority and his Flash runs weren't bad either. So I mean, he can write. It's just what happened with him was he figured out better than most how to make connections to Hollywood. Yeah. And a lot of what he does is good templates for at least entertaining movies, right? Wanted is a better movie than a comic.
Agreed.
Right, but that's because someone saw what he did. I mean, and he just got the magic order, which is now being done somewhere, I'm sure. And Jupiter's Legacy made it to television. I mean, his concepts are sound. If you want to talk about a concept guy, that's Millar. Like, he's great at that.
Yeah, that's it, though. He's good at concept, but when it comes to actually delivering on the premise, he just can't do it. Usually.
I did not mind his Jupiter's Legacy. Like,
I haven't read that one.
It's not. He's definitely influenced by The Incredibles, for sure. Big time.
Oh, man.
Well.
I love The Incredibles.
Yeah. He's influenced by them. There's definitely an influence, especially in the stuff that. Oh man, I can't remember the name of the artist that he had for the first two runs, but Morrison works with him a lot, and Millar had him for those runs, and for the first one. The sequel's not so much. But the first run, yeah, no, he did a really good job with it, and it's got a bit of an Incredibles touch to it. It's not bad. Like, it's not what I call it the greatest thing I've ever read. No, but there are worse things Millar's done. And that's just my opinion. Like I said, I don't mind it. I don't necessarily think it's great, but I wouldn't say it's bad either. So
I don't want to get too ranty because I really don't like Mark Millar's stuff all that much.
That's fair. Again, he's not for everybody. But here's the thing: you cannot get. I've learned this a long time ago. Always give the devil their due. You always have to. You have to. It's the only way to. You gotta give the devils their due. It's the only way you can honestly deal with them.
It's the only way you can deal with the salt you feel when you feel that they don't deserve the praise they get.
Well, here's the thing: it doesn't matter what you think. Like in this one real sense, it doesn't matter. Look, there are people that find success however they find it. Look, I look at a book like, say, 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh God.
Well, no, but I mean, if we're gonna go there, we might as well go all the way, right? I don't think it's a great book to read. I don't, but I also can't deny it's successful. I can't deny it, and so I have to take my hat off to E.L. James. Good for her. Do you think she gives a rat's ass what I think of her book? Probably not. And she shouldn't. Because it doesn't really matter what I think of her book. The fact of the matter is, she's got a success to her credit.
Okay. Or like Frank Miller for me. We've talked about this a few times, but yeah. I tend to pick on him a lot. He's not bad. I like a good majority of his stuff. His Daredevil stuff is great. And
Awesome.
I do like The Dark Knight Returns, even though I dislike the art style. And Year One, that's a classic. Wow, it's my favorite.
It's great.
It's
great.
my favorite of his Batman stories. His Sin City's pretty good, though I think it kind of veers a bit in quality.
But it was his place to play. That's what he wanted to do. But going, I'm gonna touch on Mark Millar, then we'll go into Frank. Mark, but hey, say what you will. Mark has Ultimates with Brian Hitch. He has his Flash run with Grant Morrison. He wrote a good chunk of that. You know, he has his run with not the Authority. Actually, he came up with the initial concept for the Authority too. Not all of it, but some of it. No, I was in the Authority. No, he didn't come up with the guy, but he was the sequel to it with Alice. He did an okay job with it. He was not. Again, do I think he's as good a writer in terms of how entertained I am in comparison to some of the other creatives out there and that I read and follow? No, I don't. But I can't deny when someone like that is regularly getting his properties picked up from movies, television, and other forms of media, I think a smart person would at least look at what they're doing and how they're doing it and saying, okay, what are you doing? Right? What are you doing? You have to give them credit for those things. And whether you like them or you don't, again, you can't knock success. A hit's a hit no matter where it comes from now. I remember I heard that line, and of all places, a show called Married with Children. It was fun because it was, I think, as close to the directors being a commentary about storytelling. Like they did a show where there was a show within a show where Kelly talked about her home life and the studio executives made a show based off what she said, what they picked up on it, and finally you get to like where Al confronts the director, and he said straight up, it's like, yeah, I would love to do Shakespeare, but at the end of the day, a hit's a hit no matter where it comes from. And I thought about that, and it was like, you know what, he's right. You can't, no matter what it looks like, no matter what I think about it personally, you got to give credit where credit's due.
Mm-hmm. I get what you mean, and you know, I don't know Mark Millar personally, and from what I've seen in interviews, he seems like a very nice man. Do I like a lot of his works? No, I don't.
Well, that's fine, and you don't have to. Look, I'm not a big Rob Liefeld fan.
Oh God.
Right?
Oh God.
But he's still got Deadpool and Cable. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It never, by acknowledging their successes, you give them the credit they deserve. And when you give them the credit they deserve, then you're free to bash them however you want to bash them, if that's what you want to do. Right? But, I mean, it also tends to temper the fact, like, you know what? They did something right. You know? It doesn't hurt. I mean, would I rather be, like, in terms of Rob Liefeld's case, I never want to see him ever do Captain America ever again. It's been 20 years, and I still don't. Right? I never want to see it. I've seen it once, and I never want to see it again. But at the same time, it's one of those realities of the business is you got to look at people honestly. If you can run down somebody that's done great things as a piece of trash, and they're more successful for you, what does that make you? Right? You have to look at them honestly and go, okay, you did great here. You know, even with people I don't like, I'll give it to you. You did great here. You know, fully power to you, right? I mean, I agree with anything else you do, but I'm going to give you this because you earned it.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Why does it bother me? I don't know. I guess I just get really passionate about this stuff.
Well, again, objectively speaking, to deal with it honestly, hey, you know, you hate it, but ask yourself an honest question. Why did this work? and be honest. If you can be honest about it, then you can bash it all you want. But if you can't, right, then maybe the problem isn't the work.
I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way.
Yeah. That's why you get to play. That's why you can. That's where I just make, again, just for someone that's created stuff. I know how hard it is to do, even if it's bad. I know how hard it is to do, and you know there are creatives out there that I wonder how they have a job. Right? If you want to, I say, you want to see a really bad movie, like, do I think it's a terrible movie? Look up one called Blood Rain. Just look it up. If you can watch more than 20 minutes, you are a stronger man than me. You just are. I can't do it. It's terrible. But at the same time,
it's me with Sucker Punch.
Even I have to...
It's me with Sucker Punch. Though sadly, I actually saw the whole movie.
Sucker Punch is better than Blood Rain.
I hate Sucker Punch.
I
hate it. My opinion.
I love the conceit. I hate how much of a chicken shit he was. That's my whole concept there. I like the conceit of the movie, which is this. It's a movie within a movie. And once you realize that, you can have some fun with it. What I dislike about that movie is he uses that to skirt some very real, very adult issues that those girls in the institution were suffering. And I think he was very, very disingenuous with how he circumvented that. But there are parts of it I really like she had an incredible imagination, the main character. And her story from beginning to end is interesting. I think the conceit's fun. But at the same time, I think, I ducked way too much bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit in there, too. So, I'm 50-50 on it.
I hate it.
Yeah.
It's my least favorite film of all time. And a lot of people are like, really? That movie? Yes. I haven't found a film that has made me that angry. Maybe Elysium from Neil Blomkamp. But, nope.
So why does it make you so angry?
Why does it make me so angry?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know rationally it probably shouldn't because, it's just a movie at the end.
I don't care about the rational. Why does it piss you off?
Why does it piss me off? Well, okay. Zack Snyder is not one of my favorite directors for one thing. But this was before I was exposed to his interpretation of the DC universe. I mean, what could I say? It's inane. It's pretentious. It's incoherent. I don't know what the hell's going on throughout the entirety of the movie. The action scenes are really cool. Her, dream sequences are really cool. But it's basically the epitome of just throwing a bunch of shit at you and then trying to act like it's deep. Or in other words, it's all style and no substance. For me, personally.
That's fair. The conceit, I realized the conceit of the movie about 20 minutes in was this was all in her head. I realized that, I could enjoy it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter. It was in a very weird way. It was a Wonderland trip in a very weird way. What I think he danced with a little too much, and this is where I agree with you on the substance part. There were some legitimate things going on in that asylum that were sugar-coated. In a way that I think, would have been better served if he had been more blunt and honest about it. And he wasn't. He hid behind the conceit too much. Right?
Yeah.
And that's my opinion on it. But I do like the idea of the conceit itself. The idea that to cope with what she's seeing, she is imagining these scenarios around her to make it more livable and bearable. I understood that very early on, right? The rest, the abuses her friends went through, the abuses that they all suffered, right? That was skirted very, very much in that movie. And I don't really think that was right. Because I think that would have added to the reason why she was going into these dream sequences so much.
Well, I would agree. I just don't think it's very well done, personally.
And that's fair. That's fair.
I may watch it again to see, hey, maybe if I was too hard on it, but, you know, I'm not in a hurry to do so.
No, it's not for you. Blood Rain's worse. Blood Rain's worse.
I'm sure. I mean, it's a well-made... It's like Avatar from James Cameron. It's a well-made piece of crap, but it's still a piece of crap. So, sorry.
Yeah, whereas Blood Rain is, you're going to look at that cast, you're going to think, this is going to be pretty good. And then you're going to be very, very horrified about 15 minutes into the movie.
Blood Rain?
Blood Rain. If you can survive that whole movie, you did something I could not do.
Is it the Yui Bowl movie?
Yes, it is.
Oh my god. That man is insane, dude. How'd you sit through that?
I didn't. I lasted 15 minutes. I didn't know what I was getting into.
Oh god.
This is before he had the reputation he developed.
Of being a fucking crazy person?
Oh, they're all nuts in Hollywood. Being a crazy person is almost a prerequisite to being there.
He's crazier than some of the crazy people. He makes his critics.
I'm not.
He challenges his critics to fight him, dude.
Yes, I know. That came later. This was when I saw the movie, it was brand new. And it was bad. It was bad.
I did see House of the Dead from him. That was very painful.
You will feel the same kind of pain, I promise.
Oh, jeez.
He had Michelle Rodriguez in Blood Rain, and he made her act poorly. I've never seen Michelle Rodriguez act that bad in any movie. And to such a point that I am wholly convinced it wasn't her.
It's... The thing with... It's like with... It's something like Elysium or Avatar. I find that the political commentary in those movies are really shallow, and that's why I don't like them. And... You don't want to be preached at. Yeah, no. I don't like simplistic stuff. You know, there's great political sci-fi out there, like Transmet, for example, from Warren Ellis. And it's not just that... His whole thesis isn't just that society's corrupt. He explores why it's corrupt. He explores how people allow corruption to fester. And in something like Elysium or Avatar or, you know, something like Renato Jones, the One Percenters, they don't do that at all. And I can't stand it. It's... How do I put this? Warren shows he doesn't help. Exactly. The whole Transmetropolitan is a call to action for anyone that reads it. He says it like the very first arc. He throws Gauntlet down right away. Talks about the Angels 8 riot, which is again it's the first 3-part. It's the first trade, the first half of the first trade. Now the original thing was just by itself the first trade, and the Angels 8 riot is one of those moments, and then he starts writing, right? And he talks about like he's tentative when he starts talking about the riot, and he gets deeper. And he talks to the reader. You like this? You like that I'm writing about this disgusting shit that I'm watching right now? Good. You earned it with your science. See, this is how it works. He talks about authority and guys at toll booths and all that stuff. Fun. Hey, you want to hear a funny story? All right. Shoot. Right. So about 2 days ago, I got a ticket from the C-train. Okay. Oof. Sorry, man. So here's the funny part. It took 5 cops to give me that ticket, and I'm still not entirely sure why. Because
Because this is the thing. I didn't not cooperate exactly. So this is what happened. Long story short is, I get off the train. I see that they're trying to get people to show their fares. I try to bypass the transit cop because I don't give a shit. I'm being very blunt when I said that. I just don't care. But there's a real cop there too. So they stop me. All right, you got me. Game's up. I'm just gonna sit here. But I'm just looking at them in the eye. I'm smiling. I'm just whatever. I don't care. There's 3 more cops. 2 police officers, another police officer, and 2 transit cops come down, surround me. So now there's 5 of them. And I realized what they were trying to do ultimately was intimidate me. Because you don't need 5 people to give me a ticket. I wasn't going to go anywhere. I had done what the cop asked me to do. I stayed in that one spot. I was listening to them. They were looking at me, and I was looking at them. They didn't know what to do. It was funny. Because I wasn't not resisting them, right? I was not resisting them exactly, but I wasn't cowing to them either. I looked them dead in the eye, and I think it bothered them more than it bothered me. And I was nervous. There was 5 of them. But, I mean, this whole thought came to my mind. Like, these people are, again, authority, the toll booth, the whole idea that we live in a culture that people just cow to authority. No questions asked, no answer, like nothing asked. Like, why are we doing that? I'm not saying don't respect authority. What I'm saying though is you can look at it in the eye and smile. And that's what I did. So, and that's very much kind of something along the lines of things I've read. It's like, you know what, and seen. We as a culture, what Warren's talking about in Transmet is we as a culture tend to allow things to happen.
I agree.
The order of things, it's just the way things are. And the fact of the matter is, we all, no matter what the situation is, we all have power and authority in that situation. We just have to use it. And we just have to use it in a way, again, I didn't resist those 5 cops. I got my ticket. But they looked at me after, one of the cops, the actual cops, said to me, your behavior is very suspicious. My response to him was, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Oh.
I don't care, dude. Like, it's just who I am. I don't care.
It's just, the beauty of Transmet for me, it is so in your face, but it does it so well. And people have tried to do it again. Like, I don't know if you've read Bitch Planet, but that's basically like poor man's Transmet, at least for me.
Have you seen McCormick's Bitch Planet? Yes.
Have you read Bitch Planet?
I've not read Bitch Planet.
I don't think it's very good, but hey, you may feel differently than I do.
I never touched it. I don't think I'm going to. Here's the thing. I think watching what I read on social media today, it's very interesting. There's 3 things I've noticed about social media today. Number 1, back in my day, when I was talking to clouds, before I talked to clouds and before they talked to me back, I remember a lot of the problems that are happening today in our time happening before. I've seen the pattern. I don't really need to have a commentary or a conversation about it because, frankly, we've had this conversation about it over and over and over again. And this conversation goes nowhere. So why are we having this conversation other than somebody somewhere is saying, hey, you know what? Let's keep them distracted so we can keep getting away with our bullshit. That's kind of like at this point in my life, that's kind of how I see it. Maybe I am a cynical man. Maybe. But I look at it like this. If this conversation did not change anything before, why have this now? It's not going to change now. Right? I tend to believe in the idea that if I've seen it before, it's going to be the exact same thing again. What has changed? Right? And I've noticed that about social media is that we tend to have the same, since about 2007, we've had about the same conversations about everything. It's either one of 3 things. My political party is awesome. Your political party sucks. Or if you have these differing opinions about this, and this, unfriend me.
Yeah.
So the first 2, I really could care less. We've had this conversation on my show. Politically speaking, I'm an atheist, so I don't really have any faith one way or the other. So that's cool. You proclaimed your party allegiance, blah 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 blah. Don't care, right? I just don't care. The second part of it is, look, listen. I remember high school too. Once upon a time, I too was. If you're not part of my group, yeah, you're not part of the club. But I realized that I don't really care about that anymore either. All I really care about is, are you doing what you love to do? Great. I don't give a shit what your politics are. I don't. I just don't. And unless I can see you are directly hurting somebody, I'm not going to really say anything one way or the other about what you think about your politics. I'm opinionated. We'll have that conversation if you want to. But if you're too scared, if you're going to unfollow me because my opinions are different than yours, I really question how much actual... I question how much you've either really thought about this or you explored your own feelings about it. And that's it. And that's where I'm at. To the rest, it's just like, so I've seen this pattern now for about 13 years. I don't care. Let's really have a conversation or not. And if you don't want to have that conversation, that's cool. But at some point, you're going to have to deal with whatever feelings you have. And they're only going to do that by talking to somebody. And the way I look at it, I'm nicer than most people. So.
I tend to try and ignore politics. I know, I do talk about it sometimes, but that's why I just kind of stick to pop culture, because that's what I love, and I like talking about it, and it makes me happy.
Sure.
So.
For the most part.
Mostly. Unless,
yeah.
You know.
It's okay. It's okay to be passionate about stuff now. I respect that.
I like talking about things I like. How's that?
Yeah, it works. I guess the final transmit point is this. And now that I'm in my middle age and I am officially crazy, part of my life. Alright? I'm officially crazy and I will do all the things that I pretty much damn well please at this point, and that's just who I am. One of the most important things about Transmet is that every one of us can change the world every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about caring about the world around you, and it's about doing what you feel is right. Also realizing that other people may have a different idea of what that is, right? And this is what I will say, and this is the last thing I'll say about any kind of politics. I really don't give a shit what your politics are. Will you work with me to help make things better?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I care about. That's it. We can disagree about the color of the sky. I truly don't give a fuck. Let's fix the problem.
I agree.
And that's what the book really is about.
Yeah, it's not that I'm against reading about politics. I just like more nuanced views than just getting pointed at and preached at, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard this all before. I'm a little too old to fall for this down in the dance.
I tend to be more lenient than some of, I know there's kind of the thing about the people who get mad at all things that are woke. I use air quotes. I don't want to get into that, but
no, it's interesting.
But my point is, I don't like getting preached at. And I will get mad and call it out if I don't like getting preached, if I feel that's what's going on.
Yeah, well, no, again, you can be, again, we all have our opinions on things, and then, like I said, it's cool to have those conversations once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Like the last time you were on my show.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, right, I don't need you to preach to me the will of whatever. I don't need that collection plate passed to me. We can do something else. That's just me. But that's just me at this particular point. But what do I know? I'm middle-aged and crazy, my friend. But anyway, pop culture. What do you want to talk about?
There's so much going on nowadays. James Caan died yesterday. I don't know if
yes.
I hope you've seen The Godfather. That movie's great.
Oh, I agree. It's a fantastic movie.
But, there's also an Elf.
Yeah, I didn't really see Elf.
I'm not a big Will Ferrell guy, but I do like Elf. I think that's a good movie. Even if Will Ferrell annoys me with his comedy from time to time. I do really like Angry.
Do you know what my favorite Will Ferrell movie is, actually?
Oh, what is it?
Stranger Than Fiction.
I've heard that movie's so good. I want to see that.
He's actually a really good drama actor.
He's also good in the Lego movie, too.
Yeah, so, I mean, he again...
He's not bad.
You know, I find his comedy is he essentially plays the same character for the most part. And Anchorman has kind of grown on me now that I'm older, a little bit. But at the same time... At the same time, it's the same character. Essentially, but it's drama. He does good drama. Surprisingly, really good drama stuff. So.
Yeah, I always get really interested when comedians do dramatic work. You know, someone like Adam Sandler. I'm a big fan of the film Punch Drunk Love that he did with Paul Thomas Anderson.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's so good.
Dude, like this is where I'm terrible. I am not. I'm at this particular point. At this particular point in my life, I very rarely engage in too much pop culture. Like I just stuff I like, right?
Fair enough.
There's stuff I like. There's stuff I like. Obviously, I'm watching The Boys, but I mean, I don't. How do I put this?
Don't keep up with it.
I don't. I go at my own damn pace. At this
Fair
point.
enough.
Like at this point in my life, there's so much to do, and I'd rather do that than I'd rather do those things than be caught up with the latest pop culture stuff. Now, again, I'm gonna watch The Boys, but I keep myself at 2 episodes a night. So probably by next week I'll be caught up with season 3 sometime next week. But I'm not in a hurry. There's no need to be in a hurry.
Yeah, no, I kind of try to be that way too, but I'm more ingrained with the pop culture zeitgeist, I guess. So you kind of get more.
Yeah.
It hits my face more often than not, and I'm like, I'll be like, I want to take a break from the MCU, and then they're like, oh, Thor: Love and Thunder's coming out, and I'm like, fuck, and you see it. I'm like, damn it, I want to see it.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily need to see it right now.
And then
that's the thing about me is it's like I'll see it. I don't. The thing is, this stuff's always here, right? So now that I realize that, I'm like, oh, okay. Let's just have some fun with it, right? Let's just go with the flow. You know.
Yeah, no, I've been kind of. It's like how I've been with Stranger Things. The new season came out, and I really like that show. And I'm gonna get a little ranty if you don't mind indulging me.
It's your show, dude. It's your show. I'm just a pretty one here, dude.
I was about to say, if you'll indulge me a second. Well, I wanted to wait till it ended because I heard that they're splitting it, and also the last episodes are like movie length. That's fucking crazy. So here's something that really bugged me. So this season, everyone is saying, "Oh my god, it's really good." And what bothers me is that a lot of the people who are saying that are the people who were like bashing it because it's too referential to the 80s. I'm like, guys, it was good the whole time. Is it Sopranos quality? No, but it's good. It's really good television. Stop being cynical about things. Sometimes I just want to yell at those critics who do those things where they list the title and they'll just be like, it kind of sucked. I just want to grow through the screen and just shout, just try and enjoy things! That's just me.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of sick of people bashing everything. And don't get me wrong, I've done my fair share of bashing. But that really grinds my gears, to quote Peter Griffin.
It grinds your gears?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Well, but I mean, it sounds like Stranger Things was also your show.
I do enjoy it.
Yeah, it's your show. So you knew it was cool before everybody else. So in one sense, you're right. So in one sense, you kind of.
I hate being that guy though, where I'm that dude who like sits in the corner and I'm like crossing my arms are folded. I'm like, yeah, it was good the whole time, but that's totally what I'm being right now.
But that's fine, dude. It's okay.
No, I think it's funny, but it's just like, oh god.
It's human nature is to be passionate about shit, man. That's just life. We're all passionate about stuff. I don't watch a lot of television, but I love books. There's books I really love. I've mentioned a few of them, right? I love that stuff. I wouldn't be on this show if I didn't, right? It's just for me, it's just like, I just recognize what it is. I've gotten to that point in my life where it's just like, you know what, you're going to do what you damn well please. That's cool. This is what I'm doing. If you like it, great. If you don't, shrug. Right?
I try to be that way, but sometimes I just get really involved.
Well, no. This is the advantage and disadvantage of because I was more like you when I was young, when I was your age. Thank God I feel old saying like that. God damn it. But it's the fact that you care. That's great and that's wonderful. You just there comes there's a point when you get older when you just realize that not everybody cares about the exact same things you do.
You'll become more relaxed when you're older. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you get frustrated at other things when you get older. I don't have the same patience for certain things that I did when I was younger. Right? I just don't because I'm not. I take less shit in a lot of ways now. I take a far less shit. I will look at it again. I'm not afraid of really anybody at this point in my life. It's just who I am. I just don't care. I look at what other people think is right and wrong, and I don't even worry about that shit no more. I just worry about what's right for me. You might agree with me, you might disagree with me, but really, this is what I'm here to do. I don't care anymore, right? And for me, here's the thing. I don't worry about what shows people like. I don't worry about what the popular consensus is on the majority of things out there, because I've already just concluded to me. This is just me personally. I've already concluded that by and large, that the majority think something, it's usually wrong. So I just don't worry about it anymore. The consensus will change. The general consensus of all things in life has no backbone. I just realized that, and once I realized that, I realized, by and large, it doesn't matter what the majority of the world thinks. It just doesn't fucking matter on anything. If everybody has an opinion and it's all the same, then it'll change, because chances are that none of those people have really thought it through. That's my opinion. Now, you have an opinion and you are passionate about something and you are willing to stand up for it and to go to bat for it, then you've thought it through. Then I give a shit, because now I can actually see that you are. Now I see you actually care. You really care. You thought it through. That's what I care about. So as I'm older, that matters to me a lot more than what the majority opinion is today. The other thing I would say that's changed is this. I also am a lot less patient with people who say they're going to do something and don't do it. I hate that shit so much more now than when I was younger. It's like, don't waste my time. I don't care if you do it. I don't care if you don't. Don't fucking waste my time.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's it. Like, that's where I'm at in my life. It's just like, I don't care. Like, do it, don't. That's up to you. I'm not the all authority. Just don't fucking tell me you're gonna do something and you're gonna puss out. Just do it, right? Or if you say you don't do it, I'll respect that. You know what? I can respect the no. I can totally respect the no. Just tell me you're not gonna do it.
To go back to Stranger Things, I have a picky fondness for the, you could call it the kids on bikes trope, which is, that kind of sub trope in mostly speculative fiction when, it's about a bunch of kids discovering this otherworldly thing,
Yep.
E.T., or even the Goonies, and I do like the Goonies. I don't like it as much as something like E.T., Paper Girls from Brian K. Vaughan, which I really enjoy. And Stranger Things. I like when the kids on bike trope is done well. I'll put it that way.
Yep. I was the kids on bikes thing once upon a time.
Or
that's just what we did when we were kids.
Or It, as another example. I really like Stephen King too. So, but it's just it reminds you. Well, for one, it reminds me of when I was a kid. Because believe it or not, even though I did grow up in the age of the internet, I did get out sometimes with my friends, and we got into wacky misadventures. Maybe not with aliens, but we did. And I kind of like when those types of stories are done very well. That's why I like Stranger Things, really. I think it is that kind of story done well.
We all did the story when we were kids. I mean, here's the thing. No, we all did. Let's be honest.
Oh, no, I'm not disagreeing. I just think it's funny, yeah.
Yeah. Your mom, you go to your mom or dad, say, where were you? I was out, my friends. Where'd you go? Well, what'd you do? Well, I went into this yard and we found this alien. His name was Jibby. Jibby, yeah, Jibby. And he wanted jelly beans. Jelly beans, yeah, jelly beans.
I actually would like to do my own kids on bike story one day. I just don't know what it would be about.
Oh, mine was me bullshitting to get out of getting in trouble for being late to come home. That was mine. I mean, that was most of ours. And again, that kernel of truth is the best, right? Is Brian K. Vaughan, like the idea that the girls were on their bikes, the girls were shit would happen. They meet together on their bikes. They go do stuff. More shit happens. They meet again on their bikes. That's real. I mean, that's a very real. Oh shit! Did you see that? It's like, yeah, I saw that. Right? And there's something very real about that. I think it's a really, really neat. I thought Vaughn did a really good job of capturing that very childlike. Hey, we all get together. Hey, did you see this? Holy shit, look what happened here, right? He did such a wonderful job with that.
I thought you said Vonnegut at first. I'm like, wait, when did he do that?
No, Brian K. Vaughan.
No, yeah, I got what you meant after that.
Also, on a personal note, I love Cliff Chang. I think him and Mazzarella as Wonder Woman 1 is awesome. I really, really like that run.
I am also a sucker for just wild crate. I love that Paper Girls is just like, you know what? We're just gonna fucking do it. Here's all this crazy shit. Let's go.
It doesn't try to be anything other than what it is, which I think is the right thing, right? It doesn't try to be anything other than what it is.
It's like Saga in that way.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I said it's like Saga in that way.
Oh, Saga is I'm having fun with it. I'm gonna finish that. When they get to the end of that story, whenever they get to the end of that story, I'm gonna be in for it the whole way. I don't know how many more mainstream. I guess I should ask this. Maybe you know the answer to this. I don't. Is there a good one and done Marvel book right now? Like I can just read that one Marvel book and it's
one
good.
And done.
Touch anything else right now? Anything?
One and done. I haven't read a lot of Marvel recently.
No, it's been a little challenge for the last few episodes. Is there like just one Marvel book, right? Like for me, the last one of those was Immortal Hulk.
I was just about to say Immortal Hulk.
That run's done, right? So I'm looking at something now. Is there anything now that's good, like for Marvel?
Oh God, I
so
don't know.
I got my DC book. Right?
I've heard Jason Aaron's Thor is, or not Thor, but I've heard his Thor's good. But I heard his Avengers is pretty good.
But it's Avengers. I'm dealing with everybody. No, I don't want dude. One by itself, and it's only the corner of the universe. I don't gotta fucking deal with anything else.
My friend Tig has been trying to really sell me hard on. Oh, I got one. Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil is really good. I read the first volume and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, maybe. I've never actually tried a Daredevil book. I always thought Daredevil. I always thought Daredevil. I always thought Daredevil was like Spider-Man light in some ways. So it's just like,
well, he kind of is. But like from the Frank Miller stuff onward, it's like really, really good. Like, I'd say that the Bendis Daredevil run is probably one of the best superhero runs I've ever read.
Yeah. Bendis at his best is really good. Bendis is for me, a 50-50. But when he's on, man, he's on. No doubt about
it. I don't know. I got Spider-Man Life Story. I just haven't read it yet. But hey, if it's good, I'll let you know. I'll be like, hey, this book's actually good.
I'm not like again, Spider-Man, X-Men. I'm out right now. It's like I don't know. Is there a single solitary book that I can read? I don't have to worry about anything else. Like anything.
Back what I was saying about my buddy. My friend has really been trying to sell me hard on Moon Knight. The new Moon Knight run. He's telling me that the Jed MacKay run is really good. And, I like Moon Knight. I read the first... sorry.
No, Moon Knight? I'm interrupting you. Finish what you're saying about Moon Knight. I'll give you my commentary on Moon Knight.
I was gonna say, I read the first part of Jeff Lemire and Greg Smallwood's run, which I really like. Then again, I'm a big Jeff Lemire fan. So, what were you going to say, Josh?
Moon Knight. I've done my Moon Knight run. Not going to touch that character ever again.
Fuck me.
I've done it. It's like been there, done that. Okay, so like.
Well, what do you want exactly? How's that?
A one and done book. Something I haven't read before. The book I was recommended from Kurt Zauer was Ben Percy's Ghost Rider.
I haven't read that.
That's what he recommended to me. Yeah, so, but yeah, I'm just looking around. It's like mainstream comics. I'm not going to be getting too many of them, but if I'm even going to do one, I'm going to do some here and there. It's worth grabbing.
Deadly Class, very good. Not from Marvel, but I love that series. I am waiting for it to finish up so I can get the rest of it and read the rest of it.
So, like I say, here's the comics I'm collecting from mainstream comics, not Kickstarter stuff, but mainstream. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because that's my childhood. Hey, and I'm cool with that. That is, you know what? That book has been good. It's also my longest running comic. It's currently at 130 issues. So it's my longest running comic currently. Saga, because I've been there since the beginning. I've got Harley Quinn, like I said, because there's two creatives I really like. Homesick Pilots, which is a fun little like image book. Berserker, Matt Kint's Keanu Reeves comic. I like Matt Kint. I think Matt Kint's one of the best writers in comics today. I enjoy his stuff, and I like that. And let's see, there's another one I was thinking about. And what was it? Image, Boom, DC.
I tend to read more Image and Boom stuff than like DC and Marvel nowadays.
That tends to happen when you're in the hobby long enough. Like again, going back to Garth Ennis, it happens because what happens is you do the superhero stuff first because everybody does, and what happens is you read. There's a lot of good superhero books out there.
Oh yeah.
But they all fall into the same story trappings in the sense that you get a run of a character, you get their story, and there's only so much you can. Batman, everything's been done with Batman. Everything. I mean, everything. So, why would I, if you read enough Batman stories, you've read them all. Green Lanterns, I'm kind of in that boat now. I read all of them. There's nothing new being broken in that. Now, it's my childhood, so I'm a sucker a little bit, and I'll acknowledge that. But in terms of a new and interesting story for me to be told, I've read them all. So I've read all the Green Lanterns. I've seen the X-Men. I've seen Hulk. I did my Hulk run. Immortal Hulk's my Hulk run. Fantastic run. I loved it. But I'm not going to I've read my Monster Hulk story. I don't know if I want to go somewhere else. I've run my Thor run. I've done my Silver Surfer run.
I think why I enjoy... I'm sorry.
No. Go on.
I was just gonna note real quick. You know why I really enjoyed the Hulk Immortal Hulk run is because it was so different. It's like, yes. Wouldn't say it's. I wouldn't say it gave me this. It gave me similar feelings to when I read Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run. Is it as great as that series? I would say no, but it gave me similar feelings. It's like such a dramatic change of pace, and you're like, this is always what I've wanted from the Hulk, you know?
Well, except it isn't. He honored what came before in the Hulk too. He just did it. He told his story. He turned Hulk into an old school EC comic. That's what he did.
Oh yeah. He did.
That's what he did. It's old school, but very fun. But again, you read these superhero stories, and what you realize eventually is that you've read all the stories. So every once in a while you'll get a run that tells a full story beginning to end. But very rarely do you get that in superheroes. So eventually you get that craving for it, so you know what you're going to do? You're going to look at Saga. You're going to look at, Bitch Planet. You're going to look at all these different stories that are not superhero stories. Right? And then eventually you come to that realization that those become more interesting. If you're in the hobby long enough, now, again, we all have our childhood favorites. I mean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Why? It's my childhood favorite. Well, because I grew up with the old cartoon back in the late 80s, early 90s. Because I was that generation. It's me. Right? But it's a good book. It's solid. It's also probably for my money. It is the best superhero book on the market right now. It's not even close. It is at its core. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a superhero comic about a family of brothers doing really cool shit. I'm in every month, right?
What were you saying?
I don't know. I heard you about to jump in, so I was just gonna throw it at you.
It was a weird thing with TMNT. I have a weird habit of not getting into things. I get into things later, like Harry Potter. I didn't read it till I was in middle school. I really enjoy Harry Potter, but I didn't grow up with it like other people did. Same thing with Lord of the Rings. TMNT is one of those things too.
Well, for me, for comic wise, that run for me is the Flash. I missed the Flash when he was good. I missed it every time. Every time it was good, I missed it. It was never meant for me. It just never was, right? Now I read the good Aquaman runs.
Oh, Lord.
I even got to see it. But there are some good ones. Peter David's Aquaman's awesome.
I was about to say Jeff Johns' Aquaman. That first part is freaking great.
It's okay.
I liked it.
David's run's better.
Peter David is very underrated. His Hulk run is outstanding.
See, no one underrates that Hulk run. That Hulk run's one of the best runs of all time. That's the thing. Everybody tried to copy that run, and that's why Ewan's Immortal Hulk was such an impact. He didn't. He respected it, but he didn't copy it one iota, right? Right? He wasn't stupid. He said, "I'm going to tell my own Hulk story," and he was allowed to. And holy crap, was that good?
And he made it more of a horror story, and it was really good.
Yeah. And David's run was not. It was very much about Hulk and his race with his wife Betty, which was great. It was Peter's love. It was Peter David's unadulterated love for his wife. And that's why the ending of that run is so terrible, because they ended up in a nasty divorce. But that's why the ending of that's so terrible. But that whole run up until the ending is fantastic. It's because it's really about a man professing his love to his wife. It's great. It's great stuff. Peter David's on my list of people I would love to interview for the show, for my show, because he has done some incredibly great work. He's one of the very few comic writers that can actually be funny and serious in the same issue. He can do it both. He can do both, and he can have you laughing one minute and crying the next, and very few writers can do that as well as he can. So, I like his novels too. Some of his novels are really fun as well. He's a good writer. Period.
He's kind of like Harlan Ellison for me, except he's not as cantankerous.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, he's done the same thing. A lot of the same things Harlan did. He's written comics. He wrote like his comics were really what he's most known for, but he's also done screenplays, television shows. He's done novels. You know.
I just mean like how they're both very opinionated about their respective mediums and other things.
Yeah. Well, that's what made them them. You have to be like to be a good creative. You have to be passionate.
Well, yeah.
You have to be. You have to be. You have to give a shit. If you don't, you're not going to be able to produce anything good, ever. Yeah, right. You can have fun, but it's got to come from the heart. So at some point, if it doesn't, it blows.
But yeah, Immortal Hulk. It's been uneven in some parts. Like, really loved that first volume. Second volume is a bit more standard Hulk stuff for me. Third one, great. Loved Hulk in Hell. Abomination, I had some issues with the pacing, but that was also very good. I liked how he went back to the split personalities of the Hulk.
Yeah, no, he, and that was where I was collecting the single issues. I actually still have them in my storage locker somewhere, at least the first bunch of them.
Also, we got those Alex Ross covers, which, he's one of those guys like Jim Lee, or, it's another one of those guys. Jim Lee. I respect his art.
Campbell's another one.
What?
J. Scott Campbell. So
yes. I
Yeah.
respect them as artists. I think they're very good at what they do. Just not for me. But those whole covers, very good. I enjoy them.
Yeah, I never did the Alex Ross Hulk covers. I just got the regular ones. But yeah, no, it's fine. Like I said, again, that was my last really fun Marvel, like my one and done book, really fun Marvel. I enjoyed it. I thought I read the first 20 issues or so, and it was like, okay, this is good shit. This is really, really, really good shit. And yeah, like every once in a while, like I said earlier about superheroes, those are gems in superheroes. They're very rare. It's very rare that you find a book that good in comics. Like I said, every once in a while you'll see them do something different with a hero that you'd never imagined, and it really works. Like I mentioned Peter David's Aquaman run. Aquaman as King Arthur. Really, the mythological King Arthur is really good. And the story of the path that King walks is really interesting. Really, really interesting. And David's run's really good until the very end. And
he tends to not stick his landings, huh?
Well, this one wasn't his fault. He had an idea where he wanted to go with Aquaman, and I think the hilarious part is DC eventually ended up doing it, just not with him, which I think is funny. He wanted to bring Arthur back as a water elemental. Ultimately. It made sense. He goes, look, I've done everything I can do with him. I think he was developing Garth and Dolphin, and he wanted, I think, to give them a bit of a lead, at least for a short term, at least for a short run, if not, like, forever. And him and DC ended up talking about, DC didn't want him to do that, and so they're okay, well, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? And, so he ended up leaving the book early because they really couldn't figure out what they wanted him to. He didn't want to go back to doing the same thing he's been doing. He's done. He told his story, so he bailed. So the end of that run was very abrupt because he was like, "Fuck, they don't know what they're doing." And then hilariously, years later, when after the Aquaman run had run its course with Eric Larson and Dan Jurgens after him, after it had run its course, he disappeared for a bit, and he comes back as a water elemental, which I think is hilarious because it's what David wanted him to do at the very beginning, which I think is funny as hell. And I'm sure he did kind of after the fact. Like, he just did exactly what I wanted to do with him. Fuck you. It's like, that's pretty much what it was, right? That run, no. He can stick the land. he can stick the landing on a story. It's just comics don't always give you the luxury of, and Hulk was on him, but that's basically because one, they needed to end the run, and two, because he had been on that book for so long, they just needed to get someone else in there.
It's kind of like with Claremont, at least for me.
Yeah, like I mean,
like
you can have the best. You can have the best writer tell the best story, but sooner or later, that story's told. You know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and once that story's told, well, you gotta at least get a different voice in there. But David had Hulk for 12 years. That's a lot of comics. That is a lot of comics. You know, that is a long run on the character, a very long run on one character, and he had said everything he was going to say. Just his person, like, what the hell? So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go on.
Oh, I was going to mention, going back to Brian K. Vaughan, that dude's just a great storyteller. You want, great... I have a buddy who doesn't like Brian K. Vaughan, and it fucking drives me up the wall. Because everything I've read from him, I've loved it. Just... I loved it. Why the Last Man, that first volume, it took me a minute to get going, but once it started going, I was there for the ride. Same thing with Saga. I'm like, oh man, this can't be as good as everyone says. I read it. It's great. And then I read Paper Girls. Also great. Just, yeah.
I like Paper Girls. I wasn't as sold on as I am on Saga. He's good. He's not. I don't think. I could see why someone would get bored of that voice. I could see why someone would, but I like it, right? And with your buddy, here's the thing. I love Neil Gaiman's comics. I'm not crazy about Neil Gaiman's novels.
What? Dude, I love American. American Gods was amazing.
It's a good book. And this, by the way, I say this, and I've said this on other shows. I've said this on my show. It's not that I don't think he's good. I know he's good. It's just, I read Ray Bradbury first, and I read Charles DeLint first. So when I read those two, and I read Gaiman, it was like, now, I'm not saying they're exactly the same thing, but they're playing in the same story trees. And at least as far as Bradbury goes, I think Gaiman himself would agree with me that he was better at it, right?
Well, that's why I like Gaiman stuff, because it is very Bradbury-esque.
Yes.
Without feeling derivative.
But I read Charles DeLint, and Neil Gaiman does a really good job of he takes stories from the past and kind of reimagines them a little bit, right? Or story mythology and reimagines it in some really cool ways. And I love Sandman for it, because I think Sandman especially, it works fantastically, right? It's a fantastic concept.
I love the Sandman for the same reason I love Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. It's that he takes what came before and just completely reimagines it. And I'm also a sucker for that as well.
Yeah, so I enjoy this. Like, I think Sandman is my favorite. It's one of my favorite Gaiman's of all Gaiman's works. But that all said, and I think Neverwhere is a great novel. I think Good Omens is a great novel. I think American Gods is a great novel. But it doesn't have the same emotional impact with me that it could have. And I think your friend goes, and I mentioned this like this because we're talking about your friend that doesn't really care for Vaughn. I bet you if he was honest with you, he'd tell you Vaughn is good. Probably won't deny that Vaughn is good, right? But it just doesn't, not every storyteller you read just does it for you. That's just the way it is. It's not that they're good or bad. Sometimes it's just, for whatever reason, just doesn't hit the same bones. And I say that, I don't say that with any disrespect. I think Neil Gaiman's excellent at what he does, but I don't love it, if that makes sense. That's fair.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how I feel when someone takes on an Alan Moore property, and I get... He's kind of a sacred cow, I guess. And I've talked about my love of Alan Moore many times, so I won't bash your head with it again, for people who know me. But, I'm like, if you're going to try and follow up Alan Moore, better have something worthy to say. It was kind of like how I was when Jason Aaron took on the Punisher Max series when I first read that, which is also a very good run, by the way. It's like, it's kind of why I'm wary of Tom King's, like, Rorschach, for example. It's like...
that seems tailor-made for Tom King, though. But we'll see,
Did I say Tom Taylor or Tom King? I was talking about Tom King. I'm talking about Tom King.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tailor-made for Tom King. Like, Rorschach as a character is tailor-made for him, theoretically, anyway.
And, I mean, and it kind of feels weird saying that Rorschach is my favorite. I think he's one of the more compelling characters in Watchmen. They're all compelling, but there's just something about Rorschach. I know he's wrong, and I know that he's not a good person. I know Alan Moore intended him to not be a good person, but damn it, you can't help but feel bad for him.
He's honest. He's a broken-hearted romantic. That's what he is.
Are you talking about Alan Moore or Rorschach?
Rorschach, broken-hearted romantic. That's what he is. That's a man that cares so much, and the world let him down too much.
I would agree with that, actually.
That's it. Look, man, I mean, he cares because when the Watchmen finale happens, he's the only one, like, Ozymandias, as horrifying as Ozymandias was, the only one I wanted to do something about it was Rorschach. And the reason why is because it was such a horribly wrong thing Ozymandias did. It was monstrous on a scale that is, like, hard to even quantify. And even though good came out of it, and that kind of quelled everybody else, right? It kind of quelled everybody else. It didn't quell him because honestly, it was horrifying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those situations where you look at it honestly, right? And yeah, Rorschach is right. He's right.
He has a point. I'll put it that way.
Oh, no. In the end, he's right. That was a fucking monstrous thing to do. And something needed to be done, but there was no good answer. You couldn't. I mean, you could touch Ozymandias. I think the fact that Ozymandias did with no repercussions a bit was also what made that part really so wrong too. So it made that so goddamn wrong, right? Is he pretty much got away scot-free, which is terrible when you sit there and think about that, right? And again, he just couldn't deal with it, and Dr. Manhattan kills him. Mm-hmm.
Which, I think is fitting.
Well, it was fitting for the story, but I mean, it was brutally unfair to Rorschach too, because he's right. He was right. At least right there, right then and there, he was right.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all really interesting. I mean,
oh, sure.
Well, maybe except for Silk Spectre. She got, poor.
Not your thing, but I mean, no, she's interesting too. Just her role was different.
Like Dr. Manhattan, I just think he is a really interesting take on, say, something like Superman or what other character could I
Dr. Solarman and the Atom. That's who Dr. Manhattan was.
Well, yeah, that too. Though definitely you could make the Superman comparisons. Because I'm kind of sick. I'm kind of sick of the evil Superman trope, but I find it interesting. It's not that Dr. Manhattan's evil. It's that he's so powerful, he can't relate to other people anymore. And that's why Issue 4 is such a masterpiece, is because it's sad.
Yeah.
And it's like he's not even aware enough anymore. Like, he's intelligently aware, but he's not emotionally aware anymore to know just how heartbreaking that is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that's where he knows how heartbreaking it is. He just doesn't care. I mean, you can do everything you can do, everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you care about what everybody else cares about? That's a fair question. Just,
I thought it was a really interesting take. I'm like, wow, he could do so much with that, you know?
Well, yeah, but then what matters? What matters to somebody like that?
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting question. Why would... See, again, I think Superman's concept's damn cool. But he cares because he was born and raised, and he still has his base humanity, right? He's a farm boy from Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That never changes. Dr. Manhattan is so far removed from where he started. He has become something else, right? Something far more infinitely powerful.
He's
right?
a god.
Right? You know, he's just so beyond anybody. Right? I mean, the only real weakness that boy has is because he doesn't care. Right? You can just sneak shit underneath him because he's not gonna give a fuck. He's so above it all that he doesn't notice what the ants are doing because why would he? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing about it. That's why Ozymandias beat him. Because it's like, well, you're not gonna notice, right?
He's like, you don't give a fuck. He just kind of...
Yeah.
He unleashes his squid on the whole world. Yeah.
Right? Because if Dr. Manhattan had given a fuck, Ozymandias never would have been able to succeed. Wouldn't have had a chance. What do you do to that guy? Nothing. Nothing you can do.
It's, you know, even as someone as awful as the comedian is even compelling, too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's like Rorschach, where he's someone who's been broken too many times by the world. Maybe there is a similarity there, but...
There is.
There is. I would agree. But, it's just... I don't know what it is with him. It's just... He's so broken by the world, he just chose to laugh at it instead of, you know...
Well... Okay. There's two interpretations of a comedian.
Then again, we only see him through the eyes of all the other characters, not through his own perspective.
I don't know if you want to see his perspective.
I don't know if I want to see that either.
Right? You got enough from everybody else. Right?
You got the point.
Right? That's the whole point. The comedian is the real villain of the story. Actually, is what he is. He's the real villain of the story.
I can see where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the real villain because without him, he never would have, like, the world's smartest. How did he describe Ozymandias after the bomb went off? Be like the world's smartest toothpaste, the world's smartest
termite.
Like.
I think it was termite.
Yeah, the world's smartest termite, right? Got Ozymandias thinking like a good comedian. It was the best comedians make you think.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, and that's the thing. The comedian was the ultimate performer. He was a reflection of the world and what it had become around him. And that was the performer. But how can you do that and not become a monster? And the difference between him and Rorschach is this. Rorschach was a monster.
Yes, he is.
But he was still human.
Mm-hmm.
Still human, still, again, a broken-hearted romantic is whereas the comedian is the cynic. The full-blown
yeah.
cynic. That's what he is. He's the full-blown cynic.
I think of him kind of, he's that complacent guy who knows the world's evil and he just doesn't give a shit. That's until he realizes that Ozymandias actually took his advice, and that just horrifies him. That's kind of my interpretation of it.
I disagree with that. He cared. Oh no, he cared too. But he went the path of the cynic. He went the path of the cynic. His path was, I'm going to show the world exactly your true face, and I'm going to laugh at it, and I'm going to make it, and that's the joke. That is the joke. He cared. Otherwise, why tell the joke at all? Right? A complacent person wouldn't even bother, but he did. That's what makes him the real villain of the story. Is of all the characters, if you sit there and think about this, the catalyst for the way the world was going is ultimately ultimately the comedian. He was the catalyst, not just because of his murder, because of the way he impacted all the lives of everybody around him. Everybody. He created doubts in the Beetle guy. Silk Spectre, I mean, he raped her mom. Okay? He basically foresaw Dr. Manhattan's descent into what he would become. He told Ozymandias he was pincushion, right? Rorschach probably just saw a little too much of himself in there. A little bit. So, if you look at what he did and how he impacted all the characters in the story, he was the catalyst. Now, imagine if he had been an optimist. Do you imagine the kind of world that those Watchmen characters might have been able to make?
Oh God.
Well, no, I'm just throwing this at you, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the comedian had not been so cynical, maybe the Watchmen ending would have been better.
Well, then why do you think he was so horrified that Ozymandias was actually, going to do something?
Well, he wasn't horrified. He was horrified at that, of course, because it was a new level of monster, even for him. He was cynical.
But he is a monster, though.
But every monster's got a little bit of humanity. Like, even Hitler loved his dog. I'm not saying that Hitler wasn't a monster, but...
Well, yeah, of course.
Dog, right? So, even the comedian is not immune to horror. He might be cynical, but no matter what, you can break cynicism. And if your cynicism breaks the face of the horror you're seeing, you're just going to be terrified, horrified at what it was. When you figured out that Ozymandias, what he was up to, like, again, that's how monsters fucking grind.
I wonder if the comedian realized that Ozymandias was actually taking his advice.
No, we need to notice that. But I mean, here's the thing: he saw what was about to happen in the city, and he was about to die. Either way, he was not getting a happy ending.
No, and I wouldn't say he deserved one either.
Yeah.
Despicable person.
Yes.
He's like the less likable. He's like the less sympathetic Rorschach, I guess you could say.
Well, again, he's the complete cynic. Rorschach is jaded, but he's a romantic at heart. Right? That's the thing that's what makes Rorschach so tragic. Is this is a man that wants to believe in the good in the world, but no longer can do so.
Yeah, I agree.
The comedian just never believed in the good of the world and saw it as a joke.
And then he saw what? And then he saw his
punchline.
He saw the punchline, yeah.
He saw his own punchline.
And he didn't like it.
No. Because again, it's one thing to think about it. Again, smart guy, but yeah. That's what makes that, again, the comedian's the real villain of the story. Like, no matter how you look at it, he's the villain. And basically, what you're reading in the story is his mess.
I'd say Night Owl's probably the most sympathetic out of all of them. I would say. Well, aside from Rorschach, I think he's the most sympathetic out of all of them. He's the most normal.
Yes.
By default.
Yes. Yes, he is Blue Beetle. He is Blue Beetle on. He is the Alan Moore's take on the Blue Beetle concept and fun. So, human, ultimately impotent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would also mention, I also like about Alan Moore's work is he's also very political, but again, he doesn't preach. I like that about him as well.
Yeah.
Him and Warren Ellis are kind of the golden standard of writing political comics, I guess, for me. Well, maybe Chris Claremont as well, but, there's probably some who might disagree with me on that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think, like I said, Watchmen definitely changed, the Watchmen concept changed comics.
I mean, it's pretty simple, actually. It's just like, hey, what if they were real? What would it look like?
No, well, more than that. It was a reimagined. you talk about, like I mentioned this earlier, superheroes have been done to death,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, what I should say is this take on superheroes has been done to death, and it all started there. Alan Moore reimagined the superhero context in modern culture, and he did it in 1986. And between him and Dave Gibbons, who's very, very underrated in his contributions to that book.
I agree. I feel bad I don't talk about Dave Gibbons enough because the writing is there's a lot to talk about there as well.
How do you know he didn't help write some of that himself? Because honestly,
Well, he's a good writer too. I forgot about. I sometimes forget. He's a good writer as well.
Mm-hmm.
He did Alien Salvation, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, but what I mean to say is, if you look at Watchmen as a concept, the concept is not complicated. The execution was ambitious. Anything you can anything you can do in a comic is in Watchmen. Anything. Panel breakdowns, stories within stories, design, all that stuff. That's Gibbons. That is all Gibbons. Right? I think, like you said, Alan Moore told a great story. It had a great story worth telling. But it was Gibbons that gave it the breadth and dimension and life that we see it and that I can imagine it today. And so you have to, like I said, he doesn't get enough credit for that. And
I agree.
But the Watchmen, if you look at Watchmen, it is a benchmark of where, pre-Watchmen, like I said, the Kurt Swan Superman era, and then there is one form of superhero storytelling, and then there's Watchmen, and then everything that came after that. We're actually ready for another Watchmen kind of story, and I'm not saying like in terms of trying to do a sequel to Watchmen, because that would be fucking, at this point it's fucking atrocious. They're still doing that shit. I
actually liked the Watchmen show quite a bit.
What?
I actually liked the Watchmen show quite a bit that Damon Lindelof did.
Yeah, it might be good, right?
Oh, it's fantastic. I thought it was.
Yeah.
Thought it was better than Doomsday Clock, anyways.
But Doomsday Clock is also was ambitious, but ultimately, I don't think I would. This is one of those properties I think you just should have left alone.
I agree.
Just my opinion on that. But that all said, it's done now. The genie's out of the box. But I will say this. Another reimagining how to tell a superhero story is possible right now. And if someone could be, would the modern comic book publishing industry allow a book like that to exist? Maybe, maybe not, but you do have Kickstarter, so.
You know, there's a comic I'm working on right now, or I've been kind of slowly working on. I'm co-writing it with a friend of mine. It was my idea, I just told him about it, and he's like, hey bro, could I write it with you? And I'm like, yeah, and it's great. I usually don't co-write with people, but he and I just agree. It's one of those beautiful things where we just agree on what we want to do. And it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It came from, I watched Candyman, which is an excellent horror movie from the 90s. And I love folk legends, I love urban legends, I love all that stuff. And I thought about it because, you know, superheroes are known as myths a lot. They're often called the modern mythology. Would you agree with me?
I'm listening to you.
I thought about that and I'm like, man, I have never seen somebody actually try to take that literally. Like, what if a superhero... Like, what if a superhero were like a folk legend? Like Bloody Mary or something like that. And I thought, that could be really interesting. And,
sure.
Also a lot of it was... A lot of it was also a reaction to people who are just like, well, why can't superheroes just be, you know, straightforward nowadays? And I thought about that as well. I thought, like, you know, what would that be like? You know? Kind of an expansion on... I didn't want to crib from Alan Moore, but I thought his exploration of the morality of superheroes, I thought, no, that could be expanded on a little bit.
Sure.
But it's just the idea of, I thought, like, what if a superhero was like superheroes are described as myths. What if we just took that literally, you know? What if there was a superhero that literally is a myth? And a very terrifying one. It may have been done before, but I've never seen it.
Ironically, Moore kind of played with that a little bit. Promethea played with that a little bit.
Little bit?
Little bit. But he's played with that a little bit. There, Supreme, a little bit. I mean, I mean, if you sit there and think about it, if you really sit there and think about it, if you sit there and think about it, I mean, even Moore's Watchmen wasn't an original idea. Like it wasn't an original, like, brand new idea. It's how he told the story. It's how the story was told.
Oh yeah.
Right? So I mean, if you can imagine a different way of telling that story, you might be onto something really interesting there, man.
Though,
like,
oh, sorry. I was just gonna mention real quick. I also was I was also reading a lot of pulp at the time. I was reading The Shadow, and I also thought about Batman because I'm a big Batman fan, as Josh knows, and as a lot of people know. I was also interested in how, and also V for Vendetta as well. I read that, and I thought, like, what would a hero like the Shadow be like in our world? And I thought about it, and I'm like, well, he'd be scary. He'd be terrifying to people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why don't we just do a horror story about that? And I told my friend about it, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. We've been slowly working at it, but I think it's an idea that I tend to really get excited about the ideas I think are winners. So I think that one's one of them.
It's a good idea. Again, it's how you tell the story, man. It all comes down to how you tell the story. What do you care about? Why is it? And you don't answer this question to me on the air. Just something to think about is, why do you think this idea is a winner? Like, what about that story that makes you care?
Is that rhetorical, or do you want me to actually, like, answer it?
No, I don't need you to. You need to ask yourself that question.
Oh.
You don't need. And the reason I say that is because if you can find that answer, you got a story. You got a story worth writing. That's what it comes down to. You got to give a shit. If you don't care, then it's, no matter how cool the idea is, it's not going to work.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say I don't care about the idea. I would like to do it. It's just making comics are hard.
They are.
And even as a youngster at 21, I know that. It's tough.
I actually am looking at one of my comic scripts being made into a story right now for an anthology. It's kind of fun to watch and read and listen. And it's interesting to me because, you know, I look at that watching an artist's interpretation of my script was pretty damn cool. I'm also really happy too because it was an 8-page story. So the cool thing about doing an 8-page story is you learn in comics what's important quickly. If you only have 8 pages, it's not a lot of time. Like, it's not really a lot of time to do it. And so now I'm on the other end. Like, I've written the script and the artist is interpreting some stuff, and it's kind of cool. Now I'm playing the role of, he goes, I'm thinking about this and this, and what do you think about that? And we're just going back and forth with some stuff. So it's like, well, because these people are this guy lives here and they don't, how they would prepare for this environment would be different. because he's used to it and they're not, and the little things like that we're putting together is fun, and the collaboration process is really, really neat. And I think as long as you have an open collaboration process, you can do some really cool shit, man. You should do some really, really cool shit. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to, the thing me and my friend are talking about is finding an artist for it. So that'll be fun. And we got to really sell them on the idea.
It could be, again, it's all in how you tell the story, man. It's all in how you tell it. What's important in your story, and focus on those things, and you'll find somebody.
And, just also I'm a big Candyman fan, and I like the idea that Candyman has of a myth being real. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen Candyman, but
I haven't seen Candyman, but I know the idea of it. Say his name a certain amount of times he appears.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to exactly do something like that, but kind of similar. Just,
Well, again, it can be done. It can be done. What's the story about? And that's ultimately it's the same two things I'm saying over and over again: is what's your story about? Why do you care about it?
It's more like if the Shadow and Batman were like horror characters, something like that. I thought. I'm sure that's been done before, but I think the idea is interesting, so I'd like to do my own take on it.
Yeah, there's a couple ways you can do it. I mean, just thinking in my head, there's a lot of cool directions you could potentially go with it. But again, it's ultimately about what's your story about. Ultimately, your main characters in your story. Mm-hmm. What is it about? What is their story? And then how does that apply to Batman or the Shadow? Mm-hmm. So, right, that's it. If you got a really cool beat on that, you'll tell a really neat yarn. Right? There's a lot of potential with it.
That's the idea. I want to tell a good story at the end of the day.
Well, that's it, right? Just like you don't. There's no such thing as necessarily no wheel is truly reinvented, but that'll say it again. But if you tell a story in a good enough way, people will notice it's your story. Saga is an old story. It's a very old story. Like their concept's old, but Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples do such a wonderful job of it. You don't think about that old story. You think about their story.
Indeed. Well, I think I've kept you on for long enough.
Yeah, we've gone for nearly 2 hours.
Yeah. Josh, I really appreciate having you on, man. Thank you so much. Hope to have you again on sometime, and maybe I can come on your show again at some point.
Well, at some point you'll be back. We'll see in my political. We'll wait until after the election in the fall. See how right I was.
But Josh, always a pleasure to talk to you. And now I need to find people to talk to next week. So yay!
So am I plugging anything? Like what's the interview here?
Oh yes. Please do plug what you got.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are the following two things I care about right now. There's my show, Just Joshing, which airs during the week on any audio, pretty much any platform you like. I'm on Twitch, twitch.tv/JustJoshingPodcast. I air those things live. You can come watch. You can even participate in the conversation if you so choose. You're more than welcome to do it. And the second thing I'm working on right now, I do have books out, but you can find them on the same place here. I'm doing an advertising services for my webpage. Basically, if you have a project or if you are on brand yourself, I will build advertising material, and on top of that, you get to use my platforms to help advertise your stuff. So if you are interested, go to jpantalleresco.wordpress.com/advertising services. You can also find all my books and stuff at WordPress site as well.
All right, thank you. Josh, as always, a pleasure to talk with you.
Pleasure talking to you.
Next week, I don't actually know. I haven't, as of this recording, I don't know who I'm going to have on next time. But hopefully I can get some more people to come on. So, yeah, hopefully that'll work out. Josh, take care, my friend. Also, goodbye, everyone. Hope you guys enjoyed it.